Hi everyone. For this week's discussion will be based on our readings of Gary Orfield's Lesson Forgotten. When we talk about segregation today, we're not talking about the old separate but equal laws anymore. Legally, those systems are gone. But what Gary Orfield argues in Lessons Forgotten is that segregation didn't disappear. It just simply changed form. Today, segregation is much subtle, more structural, and honestly easier to overlook if we're not paying attention. Orfield reminds us that after Brown versus the Board of Education, there was a brief moment of real hope. Courts pushed for desegregation, federal funding supported integrated schools, and districts were actually trying to make it work. But by the late 1970s and early 1800s, the political winds shifted. Court orders were lifted, federal support dried up, and the systems that once pushed integration basically stepped back. But once that happened, resegregation wasn't just possible, it was pretty much almost guaranteed. So what does segregation look like today? It's not about the laws telling students where to go. It's more about the housing patterns, school zoning, school choice policies, and resource gaps that end up separating students by race and income all over again. Most kids go to their neighborhood schools, and because neighborhoods in the U.S. are still deeply divided by race and class and income, the schools reflect that same divide. You can see it in the numbers. Many public schools today are majority are one race, often 75% or more of a single racial group. And the schools that serve mostly Black, Latino, or low-income students tend to have fewer experienced teachers, fewer advanced courses, older buildings, and a higher turnover. Meanwhile, schools in wealthier white areas usually have stronger funding and more stability. So even though we don't call it segregation anymore, the outcomes look very similar. Orfield also points out that modern education reforms like standard-based accountability and the No Child Left Behind didn't address segregation at all. They demanded equal opportunities without addressing unequal conditions. And when you hold segregated, under-resourced schools to the same standards as well-funded ones, you end up pushing the schools that already face the biggest challenges. In some cases, these policies even made segregation worse by pushing families to move or switch schools based on their test scores. So why does all of this matter? Because segregated schools don't just separate students physically, they separate access to opportunity. They shape who gets experienced teachers, who gets advanced coursework, who gets enrichment programs, and even who gets disciplined more harshly. And Orfield argues that when we ignore segregation, we ignore one of the biggest drivers of inequality in education. So in summary, segregation today isn't just about the laws, it's about the systems. It's visible in school demographics, in funding, in teacher distribution, and in opportunities students receive. And Orfield's message is that unless we confront these structural issues directly, we're going to keep repeating the same patterns over and over, stuff that we've been trying to fix since the 1950s. A song that comes to mind is Glory by Common and John Legend from the movie Selma. There's a line that hits especially hard when you think about segregation today, which is justice for all just ain't specific enough. That line to me captures what Orfield is trying to say. The idea that saying everyone has equal access doesn't mean much when the system underneath are still all unequal. It's like, yes, technically every child can go to public school, but the quality of those schools is very different depending on where you live and basically who you are. It's a reminder that equality on paper isn't the same as equality in practice. Thank you.